Hello, my name is Father Patrick van der Vorst, founder of a website called Christian.art. And today I've come to one of the largest war cemeteries in Europe to stand among the silent witnesses of history.
This is Brookwood Cemetery in Surrey, about an hour south from London. Like so many war memorial places around the world, it plays a vital role in preserving the memory of all fallen soldiers during the First and Second World Wars.
Remembrance has inspired countless works of art, music and literature throughout the centuries, each one trying in its own way to express the inexpressible. And today we will look at some of these creations, but we will also take a step beyond the canvas to reflect on one of the most powerful expressions of wartime art, a work so moving that words fall short, and the only fitting response to it is silence.
Brookwood Cemetery, sometimes called the London Necropolis, is one of the largest and most historic burial grounds in the United Kingdom. Here rest thousands of men and women from both world wars, soldiers, sailors, airmen and nurses, their graves marked with quiet respect. The tradition of formally marking war graves as we know it today began during and after the First World War. Before the 20th century, soldiers were rarely buried individually or with ceremony. Most were laid to rest in mass graves near battlefields, often without names or markers. It was only in the late 1800s, with changing attitudes towards human dignity, that nations began to recognize the importance of honoring each fallen soldier. The First World War, with its unprecedented scale of loss, transformed this practice into an almost moral duty. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission, founded in 1917, set the standard for what became the modern war cemetery. Orderly rows of identical headstones, each bearing the soldier's name, rank and faith symbol. These cemeteries found across Europe and beyond were designed not only as places of mourning, but also as landscapes of peace, with the promise of resurrection whispering through the silence of these sacred grounds.
Standing here in Brookwood, I can't help but think of the fields of Flanders, for that is where I grew up, where every year the blood-red poppies bloom across the soil once torn apart by war. It was among those very fields after the First World War that the poppy became the enduring symbol of remembrance, inspired by a poem in Flanders fields by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, who saw how poppies grew amidst the graves of the fallen soldiers in Flanders. And these fragile flowers came to represent both the suffering and the hope that emerged from the devastation.
In 1921, one French woman, Madame Anne Guérin, inspired by the poem, decided to take the poppy and turn it into a wearable accessory, selling them first in France, then Britain and the United States to raise money for war veterans and orphaned children. It was then adopted as the official symbol for the Royal British Legion, and to this day is a household item, worn not only in November, but at any war memorial occasion.
As a symbol, the poppy's red petals speak of sacrifice, of lives given, of blood spilled. And its delicate poppy seeds, however, tell a different story, a story of life emerging from loss. Because each poppy scatters its seeds into the wind, ensuring that new blooms will rise again the following year. In the same way, the soldiers we remember today gave their lives so that others might live. Soldiers, through their sacrifice, gave us all a new life, a life of peace. Yet, the thin, fragile stem of the poppy reminds us that peace is always fragile, something to be guarded and looked after. And it's up to each one of us to protect it.
The two world wars not only claimed millions of lives, but also devastated the world of art and culture. Centuries of artistic heritage were reduced to rubble alongside cities and cathedrals. Tens of thousands of churches and historic buildings were damaged or destroyed, from the great cathedrals of Reims and Ypres in the First World War to the bombed-out abbeys of Monte Cassino and Coventry in the Second World War. Countless masterpieces vanished forever. Raphael's portrait of a young man, looted from Poland, remains missing to this day, as is Vincent van Gogh's canvas, Painter on His Way to Work from 1888. The destruction was not only physical, but also spiritual, an assault on beauty and the creative soul of humanity. And yet, amid the ruins, there was also courage and hope. Ordinary men and women risked their lives to protect beauty and art from destruction. For example, the Monuments Men, a group of curators, artists and soldiers who worked tirelessly to recover stolen treasures and safeguard monuments from devastation. In Britain, as bombs fell over London, the paintings of the National Gallery were quietly evacuated to some slate mines in Wales, hidden deep underground until peace returned. Even in humanity's darkest hour, there were those who believed that art, like faith, was worth saving and defending.
If I had to choose one painting to illustrate the devastating effect of the two world wars, it would be this canvas, Gassed by John Singer Sargent. Painted in 1919, it captures not the heroism of battle, but the quiet, devastating aftermath of a brutal attack. It shows young soldiers being blinded by mustard gas, walking in single file, each man with a hand on the shoulder of the next, gently guiding each other against the backdrop of fading sunlight. To me, there is something almost biblical about their slow procession of comrades. It feels like it's the blind leading the blind. It feels like a modern Via Dolorosa, a way of sorrows. It depicts a pilgrimage of suffering. But even amid horrid devastation, there is a touch of hope. Not a red poppy, but looking closely at the painting, we see soldiers playing football in the background of the painting. It's a chilling reminder of how life and death, normality and horror, joy and pain coexist in the same fields of our lives. John Singer Sargent's painting moves me because it strips war of its grandeur and leaves only humanity, frail, wounded, yet enduring and always hopeful. This painting is a reminder that even in the most desolate of moments of our human history, the image of hope, the image of God, always remains unextinguished.
But of all the artworks created around the theme of World War and remembrance, there is none so great and none so well known as one artwork, a piece of music. The Last Post is one of the most haunting and recognizable pieces of music associated with Remembrance. It originated in the early 19th century as a British Army bugle call, used not for ceremonial purposes at first, but as a simple military signal marking the close of the day's duties. After the noise and strain of battle, as soldiers returned to camp to share moments of quiet camaraderie, the call sounded to signal that the day's fighting was done and that it was time at last to have some rest. Its melody is believed to have been written as early as 1790, though its exact composer and date is largely unknown. It likely evolved within the British cavalry and infantry, standardized in the 1840s as part of official military bugle calls.
Over time, the last post took on a deeper meaning. It came to mark not only the literal close of the day, but also the symbolic close of any wars. During the First World War, it became firmly established as the musical call of remembrance. And from 1919 onwards, it was adopted as a central element of Armistice Day and the Remembrance Sunday ceremonies. The bugler's slow, mournful notes evoke both farewell and yet again hope as a soldier's final rest and the promise of dawn beyond the darkness.
More than anything, the last post is as much about silence as it is about sound. Played on a lone bugle, an instrument once carried through the smoke and chaos of battle, it has no flourish, no grandeur, no orchestra to support it. It is built from only a handful of pure natural tones, the trumpet sound of a soldier's call across the field. And yet, within those few notes lies a depth of feeling that words can never reach. Its power comes from those aching pauses that hang in the air like unspoken prayers. Each note seems to rise out of stillness and fall back into it again, calling us to stop, to remember, and to reflect. It is in the silences between the echoes of the notes that remembrance truly takes hold.
So now I leave you with the sound of this enchanting yet somewhat haunting piece of music. From Greenwich College Chapel, a former soldier and military bugler performs the last post to honor the fallen.
And if you haven't already, head over to www.christian.art and sign up to receive our daily email where I pair the gospel reading of the day with a work of art and write a short reflection, exploring beauty to grow closer to God.